stuck here. The cops won't bother me.
Yeah, today I even saw motorcyclists out because it's so warm. You know, I'm a beekeeper, so I have bees, and today, man, it's what, January 9, 10 or something like that. It should be freezing, but it's not. And a couple of days ago it even snowed, but now it's back to being warm. And today's a Saturday, so lots of people out. I did go to the IMS, it's the International Motorcycle event in DC yesterday, and it was pretty sad. There wasn't a lot of motorcyclists there, but there were some really cool bikes, and the coolest bikes actually were surprising. Harley had two really cool bikes that I thought were amazing. There was the Livewire, which I am a fan because it's an electric thing, and Harley needs to kind of please younger riders, and I think that's how they're going to be doing it, making electric bikes. And Harley is getting in the ADV game. You know, Harley used to have Buell, or Buell, whatever the engines were in there, and they had a Buell Ulysses. That was their ADV bike. It was a big shitty bike because I've ridden with two guys that had Buell Ulysses, and both of their bikes grenaded on them, so I don't recommend it. But this new ADV bike from Harley, it's called the Pan American or Pan something, looks really badass. The styling is excellent looking. I really like the styling because it's quirky and very unique and very original, and it's exactly what Harley needs. It's, you know, it's a competitor for the GS, a competitor for like the Moto Guzzi's and the Triumph Tigers. It's something like that. I don't know the pricing, but if I know Harley, I know they're going to be expensive, but it is cool looking. The Pan American bike is really pretty amazing looking. From a distance, I'm a fan, but I would not be a fan if I had to buy it and like live with it and put tons of miles on it. I just don't think they would hold up very well. $2 didn't fill it up. In the IMS show, they also, I've seen the V-Strom 1050, and there were some cool things about it. For example, it had spoke rims and tubes, and I've always been a fan of that. I prefer the spokes as opposed, or I prefer the tubeless as opposed with tubes. I just don't want to dick around with like tubes on a motorcycle in 2020. There's no point to that. I have an Africa Twin, and the last thing I want to do is change a fucking tire or change a tube. I really hate that. And I know that a lot of hardcore off-road riders like that, but honestly, I don't really ride that aggressive off-road. I don't need it. I can use cast wheels, and nobody's ever going to really care, and most people won't. But I believe that the V-Strom kind of missed the boat because it's not competitive with the GS or the Africa Twin. And you know, Suzuki knows the market. That's the thing. They know that most people are not going to be riding off-road, but I think it's going to fail because even though people are not riding off-road, they want the image of them riding off-road, and they want a bike that's completely catered to off-road and ride it on the street. I know it's counterproductive, but people do this all the time. It's more psychological than anything. That's why the GS sells well. Like all of these riders that have GSs, they're not riding off-road. You know, it's a very small portion of these guys that are riding off-road. But it's marketing, it's selling the bike, and it's important to kind of convey the image much more than selling a bike that's really what people need. And this is why I like the V-Strom. It's really just what people need, and it's a rational bike. But people that buy motorcycles are irrational. I really think that they missed the boat on the V-Strom. And I did see a 2020 V-Strom 650. I think it's ugly as shit, and the new ones, you know, people say that you know, I have a 2006 V-Strom, and honestly I don't think it'll handle any better. The new ones will handle any better. I think a lot of it is just cosmetic. It's got some things like the spoked wheels. There's a XT version of the 650 that has like guards, bash plates and stuff, but honestly that's just seems more cosmetic than anything. The speedo on the 650 looks antiquated. It just does not, it's not par to a 2020 what a bike should be. I had this talk with a friend of mine. I am not really loyal to any brand. I'll just get whatever I want at any time. I don't attach my feelings like a lot of people have with bikes. You know, like there's the BMW hardcore guys, the Ducati hardcore guys. I don't really particularly favor any bike. I get them, I ride them, I sell them, and I try to be honest about them. I had BMWs. I am not a fan of BMW. Their engineering, and a lot of it is kind of over engineering, which I think is a mistake with motorcycles. Too much technology doesn't really make bikes that great. And I don't like that a lot of manufacturers are taking a page out of Apple and making things so you have to take your bike into shops to diagnose. That's something I don't really like. With technology, that's going to happen, but I think that's one of the reasons I like the Versys 300. The Versys 300 and some of the more simple bikes. I was actually ready to hate Royal Enfield, and you know why I do hate them, because most of it because of reliability. My experience with them have been, I've never owned one, but I've had friends that I've ridden with and they've gone on rides with me. And one particular case, the Royal Enfield that a friend of mine brought, and I had like an old beat up 250 Ninja 250 with like 50,000 miles, and we went on a ride, and that Royal Enfield just kind of rattled itself to death. The Royal Enfield Himalaya, it looks really cool, and the best thing I like about the Himalaya is that it costs only like less than $5,000, and in a show that has most bikes are like starting at 10,000, that's a very welcoming sight to behold, that they make a decent bike that costs very little money. A really cool bike I think is going to be popular. I really liked it. It was the Yamaha Tenere 700. That's a pretty good looking bike. I did like that one quite a bit because it looks like a rally bike. It looks kind of like a KTM. So KTMs look really cool, and the Yamaha Tenere 700 looks really good. It's got a chain though, and I mean the Yamaha Tenere 1200 has been a failure, and you can buy these Teneres for, and that's the bike I want to get, is the 1200, because it's got a shaft drive and you can get them really cheap. For me, the bang to the buck is really important, and I've seen Teneres from 2013 for like $5,000, like 20,000, 30,000 miles. And Yamaha does make very good, reliable bikes. So for me, very important for reliability to be up there. But every shootout that I've seen, the Tenere was just ripped on. It just didn't do well. I think people complained that it's like super heavy. It feels heavy. Off-road, it feels even heavier. I think people say that it sounds like garbage. You know, it's a parallel twin, so parallel twins usually sound like shit. But that's the way of the world. Everybody's going inline twos and parallel twins because they're easy to manufacture. Guys, thanks for watching, and go fuck yourselves. Bye.